Okay. Hello, angels. Can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I hope the camera doesn't fall down today. You never know what's going to happen. Okay, so just to keep the hands clean, you know what I'm saying? Make sure you clean. Guys, before I start, I'm going to go through the analytical homework. I was watching my own son in grade 6 do a Zoom lesson today, and his teacher wore a hat. I thought it was hats day. In fact, on the computer, all the students had hats on. It was so awesome. Is that what you see when you look at me? Can you see all the other students' faces? Hello?
No, ma'am.
No, I can't either. But if you want to, I thought to make things fun for tomorrow, we can have hat day. I don't have any mad hats. She had the Mad Hatter's hat. But if you want to wear a hat in your maths lesson tomorrow, we can make it hat day. Okay, having said that, let's do the worksheet. Now, I've got a short-term memory. I definitely remember doing question A. I have no idea if I finished B. I remember telling you what collinear points are. So I thought I'll just start it from the beginning, but very fast, knowing very well I might have done the whole of A and B. So it's just a quick recap. I will resend you the picture if you've lost it. Your copy, this is what your copy should look like. One second. Your copy I sent through, I'll resend it, is that one. So yesterday we worked out of the textbook, we did some angle of inclination, and then I said try those 3 questions. All right. Let me just, sorry, this is not professional. Right, let's try that again. Let's just put up the questions, and I'll just start it again, quickly. All right. So if you remember, this was from the 1999 IEP exam. We worked out you guys hadn't even been born. The first question, it said, if the coordinate of m, remember, was 1 and little d, they tell us is the midpoint of the line segment AB. So A is the end and B is the end, if this is a line segment, and M is in the middle. All right, now I'm not plotting this at all on the Cartesian plane. All I'm doing is making a note in my own head that A would be on the left and B would, let's say, be on the right, or vice versa. But what's important is M is in the middle, midpoint. Okay, in case you can't read my handwriting, which is possible, in the x value of coordinate A, the x value is a little a, okay? And the y value of the midpoint coordinate M is a little b. All right, so point A, not drawn to scale, is little a 4. M is the midpoint, 1, and little b. And the point B, the coordinate x is 3 and y is 6. Notice I haven't drawn it to scale. I mean, 6 would be higher than 4. I'm just putting M in the middle. So your formula, do you remember you add the 2 x's of your endpoints, and if you divide that by 2, you get the midpoint. Take the y values of the endpoints. If you add them, divide it by 2, you get the y of the midpoint. Okay, so to solve for A, we're going to set up a little equation. So we take the x of this endpoint A and the x of the other endpoint B. If I divide that by 2, do you all agree I will get the x value of the midpoint? Now, the x value of the midpoint, do you agree, was given to me? It's 1. So what I'm doing is I'm taking, let's just go into green. The x value of point A on the end, I'm adding the x value of point B on the end. If I divide that by 2, I get the x value of the midpoint. Okay, having just changed that to green, if I use a goes 1 and I flatten this with an LCD of 2, you agree I'm going to get a plus 3 equals to 2. Because 1 into 2 goes twice, 2 times 1. Which means a will be 2 minus 3. And I'm just checking. If I had done that correct, it is negative 1. We will work that out, because if I've made a mistake, we'll work it out. Sorry. If a is minus 1, minus 1 plus 3 is positive 2. And if I divide 2 by 2, I get plus 1. So, yes, a is correct. I just was looking in the wrong place. Now to solve for b, do you agree we're going to take the y value of the endpoint, add the y value of the endpoint. If I divide that by 2, then you'll get the y value of the midpoint, which is b. And this is just a value, guys. If you add before the 6, you get 10. So b is 5. Okay, I know I did that question last lesson. I definitely remember it. Mark allocation 1, 2, 3. All right? And then collinear, I definitely remember telling you what to do. I just don't remember if I finished. So let me just quickly do it again. Okay, so this question, we've done it before actually. I said that yesterday as well. So for number B, they gave me 3 coordinates. They said the coordinate of C, x is 1, y is negative 2. The coordinate of D, they said x is 5, y is 1. The coordinate of E, they said x is little c squared, and the y coordinate is c plus 1. And they said the points C, D, and E, they said are collinear. Remember, collinear means they lie on the same straight line. And then it was solve the value, and then they put value with a possible plural of C, values of C. And this question was 5 marks. So collinear points, remember, it means the points lie on the same straight line. Just, it doesn't mean that is the line. Maybe this is a negative gradient. I'm not plotting it. I'm just trying to remind you that the gradient between any 2 points on a straight line is constant. And that is why any question with collinear, use gradients. Okay, so that is going to spark use gradients. So you need to get the gradient from where to where? From C to D. Remember, the formula is the y of the one coordinate minus the y of the other divided by the matching x values. Okay, so x, y, do you agree I'm going to take 1 minus, and then I'm going to subtract the y, which is negative 2, over, then I'm going to take the corresponding x value minus the x value. So do you agree, Lantrops, we're going to get 1 plus 2 is 3, 5 minus 1 is 4. Okay, that is a definite 1 mark. Sometimes 2 marks, but we grade 11s, maybe, maybe not. But let's get the gradient of DE. Now, there will be a variable in it. Woody panic me. So the gradient of DE, you take the y of the one coordinate, which is C plus 1, minus the y of the other coordinate, which is 1. But then you must start with the matching x values. So if I just simplify that a little bit, do you agree the 1s will cancel? So I've got C over C squared minus 5. Put the C squared minus 5 in a bracket, because remember, a division line is a flat bracket. Now, because they're going to look here, just put it all in. I'm going to tell my examiner that the gradient of CD equals the gradient of DE, and I'm going to go collinear points, therefore same gradient. Now, I'm not sure if they allocate a mark for the statement, but just in case, but I think the mark allocation will be equating the one gradient to the other gradient. So I think by equating them, there's your 3 out of 5. Okay, so we got 60%. You're going to LCD it by cross multiplication. So we're going to go 3 into the bracket of c squared minus 5 equals to 4 times c. So then multiply, distribute out 3c squared minus 15. Bring this term across, minus 4c is 0. Now, hopefully you'll see it's trinomial, but it's in the wrong order. So let's put the 3c squared minus the 4c and then minus 15. Assuming I've done this correctly, we're looking for the factors of 3. Let's go with 3 times 1. 15, I'm going to go 5 times 3 or 3 times 5. It's got to differ by 4. That's beautiful because 3 times 3 gives me 9. 1 times 5 gives me 5. And 9 minus 5 is the difference of piggy in the middle 4. Okay? So the way I do it is like so. I do not use that slide and divide method. So guys, open and close 2 brackets equals to 0. Do not drop your equation when you factorize because you will lose a mark. So degree here, I've got a 3c and a 1c. So in other words, 3, 1 above that horizontal line, they go in the front. In this very specific order, 5, 3, that sign being negative tells me the biggest product, the first sign, happens to be a negative. So who's bigger? The answer, the product of 5 times c, which is 5c, or the product of 3c times 3, which is 9c. 9c is bigger than 5c. So the 9c needs to get the first sign. And in order for that to happen, I'm going to put it there because that will give me a minus 9c. Then that must be plus 5c. Different signs. Before I finish it, let's just check. There's the 3c squared minus 9c plus 5c. You see the difference is negative 4c. And there's my minus 15. Right, well, let each bracket equals to 0. So 3c plus 5 is equals to 0. So we'll take the 5 across, divide it by the 3. So we get c is minus 5 over 3. Or from this factor, we're going to get c equals to positive 3 because c minus 3 is 0, therefore c is 3. Now there's no diagram. That means you keep both answers. Please do not kick an answer off if you don't see a diagram. If there was a diagram and they had plotted these points beautifully, so let's say, for example, 1 and 2 is there, so point C is there, D is 5 and 1. Okay, now you see this point E could be where if C were, for example, minus 5 over 3, were you squaring it here regardless, or if it was 9, you're squaring it. C plus 1, so that would, you see, if C is minus 5 over 3, which is minus 1 and 1, we will still get a negative. So basically, I'm just trying to show you that we could have, this point E could either be there, like so, sort of, I'm just very badly trying to make a point, or point E could be, for example, there, you know what I'm saying? So there's 2 values of x. X could either be this value here, which would be 3 squared, which is 9, or that x value there, which would be 25 over 9, which is not even 1. So there's no diagram, so you keep both answers. But if they had a diagram, and they put C there, they put D there, and they put E there, so the x value of E has to be bigger than D, then I would have definitely chosen only where x is 3. Because 3 squared, then the x value would have to be to the right of the D. So it's only when you're given diagrams, sometimes you kick out an answer. If you're not given a diagram, don't kick out anything. Right. That's where I definitely got up to. So let's carry on. Now we're on to number C. You've probably tried it. Question C says we have 2 straight lines. 2y plus 7x equals to 5. And the other straight line is 4x plus dy plus 3 equals to 0. They all straight lines because the variables, the y and the x's, have a ghost 1. So they are both straight lines. A straight line in standard form is y equals to mx plus c with a plus 1 in front of the y. Then the coefficient of the x is your gradient with the sign. Gradient, a synonym, it's just your slope. But you need to get that ghost 1 in front of your y. Now you can see both of these straight lines are not in standard form. So they're not in standard form. There's a variable d. The question is going to be solve for d, but they tell you that the two lines are coming in perpendicular. Now remember, perpendicular, when you see parallel or perpendicular in analytical geometry, think of gradients. Okay? If the lines were parallel, the gradient would be the same. The steepness is the same. If they're perpendicular, so if one line is doing that, the other line's coming in at 90 degrees, do you see the signs of the gradients would be different? So if you remember with perpendicular lines, you take the gradient of your one line, you change its sign to the opposite and you flip it. The real wording there would be called the negative reciprocal. Reciprocal just means upside down. Okay, so I need to get this graph into standard form. So let's do it slowly. There's the 2y. We'll bring this plus term to the right, so it becomes minus 7x. And the 5 is already on the right of the equals. And then to get the coefficient of the y to be a plus 1, you already have to divide everything by that coefficient. You can do whatever you like to the equation, but you've got to do it to both sides as a whole. So we're going to get minus 7 over 2x plus 5 over 2. Now, guys, I'm not interested in the y-intercept. I'm just interested in the gradient, which is the coefficient of x. There must not be an x in it. Let's quickly get the second equation into standard form. So let's keep the term with the y on the left, dy. Take the x term across, so it's minus 4x, and the constant to the other side, minus 3. Then you'll divide both terms on the right and the left, the one term, by the coefficient of the y. Why? Because we need to get the gradient. So you need the ghost 1 in front of the y, and then if you simplify that, you've got minus 4 over d, x, minus 3 over d. Now again, lamb chops, I don't care what their y-intercept is. Because of the situation, we know one thing. D is not allowed to equals to 0. Because if D equals to 0, to agree, it's undefined. So I'm going to put that there. There is my one gradient. Now, remember, they're not equals. They would only be equals if I told you the lines were parallel. Then you would make that equals to that and you would solve. But if it's perpendicular, let's keep the hard gradient. The hard gradient is the one that I say has the variable in. To keep the complicated gradient the same, make that equals to. Now watch. You change this to the opposite sign, so it will become a plus. And if you flip 7 over 2, the reciprocal will be 2 over 7. So 1 mark for getting this gradient, 1 mark for getting that gradient, 1 mark for making the one gradient, keep it as you see it, equals the negative reciprocal. Guys, there's a bit of noise in the background. It sounds like a radio. It sounds like someone on the moon talking to me on a radio. Okay, very quickly, we're going to flatten this. My LCD is 7D, and we've said this before, D can't be naught. So D divided into 7D goes 7 times. Please be quiet, guys. Times that by the numerator. And 7 divided, guys, 7 divided into 7D goes D times. And times that by the numerator. Okay? So you're dividing the LCD by the 7, so the 7s cancel. Your quotient is the D times that by the numerator. So plus times minus is negative. 7 fours are 7, 14, 21, 28. my equals to 2d, if you divide both sides by the coefficient of the variable, d should be negative 14. All right, and I will photograph that for you. We are correct. So now we get onto the clock. What is the time? Did anyone work this out? Does anyone have an answer? You can shout it out. Did anyone get it? Okay, no noise means you've either been muted, or you're too embarrassed to reply, or you didn't get the time. It would be one of the three. But I will show you how to tell the time. Okay. So lamb chops, I'm drawing a circle for an analog clock. Okay, with a little hiccup there. They tell me this clock, 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock are lying on the y-axis, if you read the question. And 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock are on the x-axis. All right? So that would be 3, and that is 9. And then yesterday, I was just showing you what an analog clock looks like. There's a long hand and a short hand. And the long hand is the minute hand, and the short hand is the hour hand. Now, in order to do this question, we've just got to do something that to me is logical, but isn't logical to you. We know that this is 90 degrees. So after 12 on the right, you get a 1, and then you get a 2. So if I were to join that from the origin to 1, and then from the origin to 2, can anyone tell me how many degrees each be? They would be equal. Can anyone work that out?
30.
Very good. So if the total of that quad is 90, then this would be 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 30 degrees. I'm not really interested in the bottom of the clock because they do talk about angle of inclination, which is always at the top. Sorry, there's my glasses. Yes. Okay, let's just look at after 9 degree, you'd find a 10, and then an 11, and then your 12. And because this is also going to be 90 degrees, look, I'll just show you. 90 degrees, degree, 90, 90. Degree, that would also be 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 30. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 threes are 80 times 10, 180. Okay, now that we know that, I need to change the color of my pen. What do they tell me? They talk about the face of a clock is drawn on the Cartesian plane with its center at the origin and 12 on the positive x-axis. They talk about the hour hand. Now guys, the hour hand is the short hand. I remember them teaching at primary school like this. I don't think we even had digital clocks. The short hand is the hour hand, and they said it's represented by the equation y equals to positive 2,144x. Now before I go any further, plus naught, you don't see that, but obviously that is implied. That means the y-intercept of this straight line, it's just a straight line, goes through the origin. Well, did you notice that both hands, and that's the second hand, by the way, but I mean, you can see it goes through the origin. So if, for example, which is not quite the case, if, now the hour hand is a shorter loop, okay? So, for example, let's just bring it up here, okay? Now, do you see that the gradient of the hour hand is positive? Positive 2,144. So it has to go in that direction like a tick. So the hour hand, I'm moving it, you see there's got a negative gradient. So that definitely can't work. So if you just keep moving your clock around, I just want to get this hour hand, okay. Finally we're on 12 o'clock. But now look here, the minute we direction, do you see that the hour hand is now like a tick? So the hour hand is somewhere between the 12 and the 3. because there's a positive gradient. Now, to get the angle of inclination, remember the inclination is the angle between the positive x-axis and where our line is. We need to get the angle. So, but we're looking by hand. Remember, the angle of inclination, tan of the angle of inclination equals the gradient of the straight line, which is 2,144. So tan theta, angle of inclination of the hour hand, equals to tan theta equals to the gradient, which is the coefficient of x. Remember, when you're looking for an angle, you press shift. Okay, so I'm going to press shift tan 2,144. And I get theta is 64,99, etc. Now, this whole question talks about to the nearest degree, and I'm just highlighting that. So to the nearest degree, that would be 65 degrees. Now, lamb chops. Let's work from here backwards, anti-clockwise. So degree, that is 30 degrees. That is another 30 degrees. So that would make 60, but we need a little bit more. 65 would be just before the 1, somewhere. So the hour hand is somewhere just before the 1. Now, normally that means it's something to 1. Let's look where the minute hand is. All right? Now, I'm trying to find a different color. I'll have to use black. Black would be a different color. So now, if you look at the minute hand, now lamb chops, the minute hand is the long hand. Look, that long hand, that's the minute. The equation of the minute hand is y plus 0,577x plus 0. Now, wait, I left the equals 0. Right. Now, that is not standard form. We need ghost plus 1y equals mx plus c. So this term needs to go to the other side. So by implication, it's going to become negative. Can you see that? Plus 0. So again, we know it's going to the origin, but the gradient is negative. So the minute hand, the long hand, is going to go like an N would go. It's going to have a negative gradient. Right? Now, before you ask me, just let's quickly take the angle of inclination. So tan of this, let's call it alpha. We want to find the angle of inclination, and that equals to the gradient minus 0.577. Now, guys, I did tell you yesterday, I said if the gradient is negative, you could put it a positive and then just go shift tan positive and then go 180 minus. Or in this example, if I were to go shift tan and actually put in the negative gradient, I'm going to get in this example. Okay, I won't do that. Remember, let's just keep the same method. Just put in the gradient, get alpha acute. Let's keep the same method. So I'm going to go shift tan, but I'm putting in the positive gradient of 0.577. But then I'm getting the angle on the other side. So I'm not getting the angle of inclination. I'm getting this acute angle. So alpha acute is 29,98 degrees. To the nearest degree is 30. So that would be 30. But the angle of inclination on a negative gradient, do you understand, will be an obtuse angle. So can you understand why the angle I'm looking for would be 180 minus the 30. So the angle of inclination is 150 degrees. And that would be of the big hand. So let's see. 30, 60, 90, 120. There we go. 130, 40, 50. Okay, so the big hand is exactly on the 10. just for interest, you see alpha acute was 30, so there is the alpha acute, 30, there is the 150. That 150 is the angle of inclination. Okay, so if the big hand is on the 10 and the little hand is just before the 1, the time would be 10 minutes to 1 o'clock. It's 10 to 1. The mark allocation for that question, first of all, it said find to the nearest degree the angles of inclination. So for A, I would get 1 mark for that, and 1 mark for that, and 1 mark for that, and 1 mark for that. Unless you said alpha acute is 30, but you see they said they want the angle of inclination. So you see you had to give them the angle of inclination of the minute hand, which is 150 degrees. You also would have to tell your examiner who's who so that they can see which one is which. So there's the 4 marks. And then you might say, well, why is this worth 3 marks? I have no idea. Maybe it's worth 3 marks because you have to sort of work out the 30, 30, 30, and I don't know. But you get all 3 marks for that. Personally, I would not have made that more than 2 marks because if you didn't get this right, you're not going to get that right. They have to transfer over that carry-on accuracy. All right, I found that a lot of fun. Did you find that fun, or was it just me?
We found it fun.
You found it fun! Yes! I love it. Okay, so you know what? Let's hope maybe we get a clock question. And yeah. Okay, listen, we don't have long. We've got about 8 minutes. So for the rest of today's lesson, let's just do algebra. But who said, oh no? Oh yes, algebra is the best. Now listen, algebra, I'm not going to choose easy algebra though, because we love algebra, so we've got to challenge ourselves. So I thought I'd start with the question that you probably have forgotten the first, and that would be solve for x, but I'm doing the quadratic inequality.
And we're going to post these on the group.
Yeah, always. Have I ever let you down yet?
No.
Not yet. There's always a first time. Can you still see me as my phone swung?
We can see you.
Ah, it's fine,
Yeah,
man. Leave it.
It's nice to hear your voices. Okay, guys, I'm going to ask you to try this. Before I do it, I'll give you a clue. This is FOIL, x squared, inequality. So this is where you go see these, okay? Quickly try that. I'm just going to straighten the camera a little bit.
Wait, ma'am.
Then I'll do it. Try first.
Oh, yo.
Tula, tula, tula. We're doing it silently.
Ma'am, please tell the host to stop muting me. I'm trying to learn here and ask you questions, but they keep muting me.
Yes,
Now they're muting me, so every time I ask a question, I get muted.
Oh my word! Can you do something like that?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if the
I
host
wish
but
I
like.
had that facility.
Yeah, ma'am, they're
when
also
I was
muting me. I'm just trying to.
It's because we
Just
have
trying to
other
learn,
people out
yeah.
here
You're just
playing
trying to
music while
learn,
ma'am is
ma'am.
teaching.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
they're
man,
muting all of
yeah,
us.
it's
No one's
yes,
playing
I'm
music.
trying to
And then
learn,
someone makes a noise and I just mute them out.
Yeah, but they're saying people are playing music, ma'am. Who's playing music?
Ma'am, I
no,
can't
those
hear any
people are
music,
very
I'll
naughty.
be
You're
honest.
right. That must be Nappy Rash. Nappy Rash and
Yeah,
what was
Nappy.
the other one? There was some
Oh,
crazy
EDP, ma'am.
name.
EDP, I think
Easy.
EDP.
I mean,
No,
who's
yes, ma'am. Who's
easy?
EDP? What does EDP even mean?
It's your
No
boy,
idea.
Eat That Pussy 445.
Huh?
Okay.
Never.
Listen, we've had our laugh. Okay, now you
Listen
must
to this.
stop talking. Let me show you. All right, if I FOIL this, Jubilee, I'm going to get 4x squared times together with the sign, but double your product. So 2 times 3 is 6, double 12x. Always positive, square the last. Bring the 4 over, equals 0. You have 1 mark. You've got 20%, guys. Are we going to stop there? Money on the box.
Huh?
It's like a game show. You know, do you want to stop there and take the points and get 20%, or should we go further?
Go further.
Okay, we're going to go further. Okay.
Go
we really
deeper.
get the right terms.
Oh,
4x squared minus 12x plus 5. Okay, now you have 2 out of 5. You have 40%. Do you want to stop there, or should we go further?
Go further.
Okay, let's factorize this. Just don't drop your equation. Now watch. You're looking for the sum of 12. Someone talking?
You see, someone is playing something again.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
sounds like the radio. Stop it. Yeah. Klunipa.
Ma'am,
Yes.
you
No,
you actually have a greater than sign to the 4. It's not an equal to.
Say that again.
It's an inequality, ma'am, and you put an
It's an
equal sign.
inequality and you put an
Yes,
equal
ma'am.
sign.
It's inequality. Thank you. Very well spotted. And whoever's got their noise on, turn it down. Okay, I actually did that because that person distracted me, you see. Thank you. This is an inequality. So the factors of 4 could be 4, 1 or 2, 2. 5 is prime. So it's 1, 5 or 5, 1. And I'm looking for the sum of 12. So 5 times 4 is 20, and 1 times 1 is 1. That's 21. 1 times 4 is 4, and 1 times 5 is 5. If you add that up, you get 9. That doesn't help. 2 times 5 is 10. Guys, 2 times 1 is 2. What is 10 plus 2? 12.
12.
So you see those guys go in the front, 2x, 2x. In that order, you put the 1 there and the 5 there. Same signs. They will both be the first sign. Okay, now you have 3 out of 5. You've got 60%. Now, if it's the quadratic inequality, I told you you must go CVs of x. From here, you would get a half. From here, you get 5 over 2. Now, guys, a third of you are going to go, that is smaller than 0, or that is smaller than 0. We will stop marking. You don't end like that. Give me the CVs, and then I'm saying for what value of x is my parabola smaller than 0? Now remember, a parabola is a parabola. It's a happy parabola. If that is my x-axis, for what value of x is the parabola below the x-axis? That's what it means. Not on, not above, below. So do you see the CVs? A half would be on the left, and 5 over 2, which is just 2.5, would be there. Between those two values, you see my parabola will be below, negative. So you either will go x must be greater than a half, but smaller than 5 over 2, or you can use the interval notation. X is an element, a half, semicolon, 5 over 2, and round means you exclude. Why am I excluding? Because they did not go and equals. Why am I doing an interval? Because they said for what value of x is the parabola smaller than 0, which means negative, smaller than 0. So those are the values of x. Okay, we're going to stop now. Yes, Lanchop, talk fast.
If you don't exclude the values that you just got,
Okay, if you do square bracket,